right, go ahead, Lizzie, start it.
Welcome to Basic Folk, where we have honest conversations with folk musicians. I'm Lizzie No, and this is Cindy House.
Oh man, so we are recording this on video right now as well, and I wish you could see the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Cindy, what are you the staff of? It's sort of like a members-only staff shirt.
It's from a country music festival that my friends organized that we went to a couple weeks ago. It's called Blame My Roots.
Blame My Roots.
In Ohio. I really wanted a t-shirt, and I didn't get to go to the merch tent because we were having too much fun. And then my friend, the next morning, she texted me. She was like, which color t-shirt do you want? Because she had like staff t-shirts.
Well, that's better.
And I was like, obviously I want the hot pink one.
Yeah. Wear that out hunting.
And like crossing the street, like helping people cross the street.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about a couple things before we get into Becca Mancari.
Let's do it.
I do want to talk about a TV show that you and I are both like super into, and we started talking about it the other day. And since then, I went to go rewatch it, and it has like lit up my life. It's called Hacks.
I received a really fun text last night with some screen grabs of some of your favorite looks from that episode.
Deborah Vance. Deborah Vance is a legendary comedian in Las Vegas, Nevada, and she's doing like a Las Vegas show. And then her manager sends her this like snot-faced 25-year-old writer from LA. And it's like water and oil trying to mix together.
It's a classic setup, and there's a great desert scene that is my favorite scene in the show. I won't spoil anything, but Hacks, so good.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'm really enjoying it on the second watch. It's on HBO Max. Jean Smart plays Deborah Vance, who is this like 70s something legendary comedian who has impeccable taste. My new fashion icon. Honestly.
Oh, good.
Couple of podcast recommendations. Songcraft is an American songwriter podcast, and we have been doing a trade with each other, telling each other's listeners about our podcasts. We have an episode of Songcraft dropping in the feed. It is a podcast featuring two very smart guy buds who do their homework really, really solidly, much like we do here on Basic Folk. The episode we're going to be dropping in a couple of days features Ani DeFranco. I love listening to Ani DeFranco talk. It is very similar to listening to her music.
She's a genius. We can say that on the show, right? We have the authority.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. The other one is one of my favorite podcasts. It's actually an offshoot of... So last time we were talking, Lizzie, we were talking about You're Wrong About.
Oh, so good. On my last little Midwest run, my guitar player and I listened to the whole series on You're Wrong About Princess Diana. And like every few minutes, it was like they said what to her? They did what? It filled us with righteous rage. And it's so messy and fascinating and full of really great outfits.
Now you have to go watch The Crown.
Don't.
You don't watch it? What?
Here's the thing. Am I going to invest that much time in the royal family? I'm just not.
I see your point, but it's also really good.
You let me know when they get to Meghan Markle, and then I could be convinced.
All right, so if you're not watching The Crown, what are you watching?
I have actually, unfortunately, been watching Are You the One, which is a reality show that like makes you stupider every moment that you watch. But there's some really interesting game theory in it, so I actually do recommend it. If you like reality TV that's trashy but hooks you, premise is this. Are you ready? 20 singles. They are pre-paired by matchmakers, but they don't know who their perfect match is. They have 10 weeks to figure out who their perfect match is, and if they get all 10 pairs right, they win $1 million. All 20 of them. So after taxes, it's probably about 30 grand. And each week they kind of pair off, and they have a ceremony where for each correct couple, a beam of light appears in the sky.
How many tries do they get?
10 tries. Cindy, it's so embarrassing that your tastes are like edifying and beautiful. Actually, I do have a really good recommendation. Can I share a book recommendation?
Obviously. Yes.
This is my friend Elias Rodriguez's book, All the Water I've Seen.
All the Water I've Seen is Running.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's about kids growing up in Florida. A tragedy happens and then they kind of come back to like make sense of it. Beautiful book.
Like as grown-ups?
Mm-hmm.
They come back. So it's like It.
Yes. Is that like Stephen King? I haven't seen or read it.
I've only seen the like movie when I was a terrified middle schooler. I got to get that book because I've been looking for a good fiction. It's fiction,
beautiful.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lizzie.
Of course. Thank you.
The other podcast episode that I wanted to talk about was Maintenance Phase, which is an offshoot of You're Wrong About, harkening back to what the Princess Diana episodes. But Maintenance Phase is a really great podcast that Michael Hobbs, who is my voice icon. If I listen to him too much, I start talking like him. But I love him so much. And it's Michael Hobbs and Aubrey Gordon, and they debunk junk science behind wellness scams, nonsense, nutrition, health fads. One of the episodes they did recently was they were talking about the BMI.
Oh, my God.
It was like mind-blowing, like finding out the history of the BMI. And also that like one time in the 90s, the BMI was like arbitrarily changed. So if you had a BMI of 27, that meant that that was like the starting point for being overweight. Okay. And then sometime in the 90s, they just like backtracked it to 25.
What the hell, man?
For like no reason. And it's like 40 pounds difference, but like depending on who you are and stuff. But fascinating.
People who are just listening on audio cannot see how hard I'm rolling my eyes.
Yeah.
Everyone, do your best. Do your best.
Yeah. Okay, today on Basic Folk, we're talking to Becca Mancari. Lizzie had an interview with the wonderful Becca. Take it away.
Okay, so if I had one thesis statement to say about Becca Mancari, it is that she does things her own way. She was raised in New York and Virginia and found herself living a nomadic lifestyle in her teens and 20s, which is when she kind of found her footing as both a songwriter and as an outspoken queer woman. So she ended up kind of renegotiating her relationship to spirituality and her relationship to gender. And this transformation is something that you hear in a lot of her music. Her amazing 2020 album, The Greatest Part, is a self-described coming out album that really invites people into this personal journey that she has been on. It's also a musical departure from some of her earlier work, which was more indie folk influenced. The Greatest Part, which was produced with Paramore's Zach Farrow, is kind of a pop-influenced indie rock soundscape that has Nashville shaking in its boots, but always stays true to Becca's intimate writing and the feeling of being really close to her. And that feeling kind of becomes the focus of our conversation. Oh, yeah. She's incredible. And like that feeling makes her fans stand apart because they have this relationship to her that transcends a lot of music fans. Like people describe going to her shows as this transcendent spiritual experience. So we talked a bit about that. And we also talked about her 2021 EP, Juniata, which is orchestral and nostalgic and dreamy. And my favorite track from that EP is Annie. But then we got into everything from my pet topic, the nitty-gritty, icky details of self-funding an independent album, to Becca's quarantine hobbies, including ditch digging, and her friendships with very big deal musicians like Julien Baker and Brittany Howard. Before we get into the conversation, I just wanted to share a word of caution that my interview with Becca touches on some difficult topics like religious trauma and homophobia, which I know can be really upsetting. So everyone just kind of use your best judgment and take a word to the wise.
All right. Thanks for that, Lizzie. We are going to take a listen to a clip of Annie. I will say I've met Becca a couple of times, and she is a magic person.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah. So pumped for everybody to hear this interview. Okay, let's take a listen to Annie, and then we'll get to our conversation with Becca Mancari and Lizzie No on Basic Folk.
Won't you come back to me? Annie, won't you come? Won't you come back to me?
Welcome to Basic Folk. I am Lizzie No, and I am thrilled to be speaking with the phenomenal Becca Mancari today. Becca, you are a forceful songwriter, a sonic adventurer, a storyteller, and a singular artist. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you for having me.
So first things first, on social media, your pronouns are she, they. Do you prefer one or the other?
I am fine with either. And it's kind of new for me, so she is more familiar, so whatever you feel is great.
Okay, great. Thank you. So picture yourself, let's get started. Picture yourself at age 10. What did you think you were going to be doing as a grown-up? And was music always the dream?
Music was always a dream since I was like 3 years old. So
great.
I definitely think that I was always playing music in my 10-year-old dreams as well.
And then you spent a lot of your teens and 20s moving from place to place. For people who aren't familiar with you, you were in Virginia, you were in Arizona, you were in India, you were everywhere in between. And how do you think that nomad period turned you into the songwriter that you are now?
Yeah, I think it's really important to not be trapped in like a bubble, a homogenous kind of Nashville world. There's a big, beautiful world outside of this bubble. And I think that made me, more empathetic and hopefully more aware of my own need to grow always and learn from other cultures and other people and ask questions always before always having answers. So I think it's definitely been a big part of how I've grown up.
Yeah, like you're a listener as much as you are a creator.
Yeah, I definitely, for me, sounds are the most important thing. Like, I'm not always just, I'm a writer, and I'm a singer, obviously, but I hope to be a composer in my later life more than, I think, a writer. I think sounds are the things that move me the most. And so even just listening to the music in different parts of America, even regionally, I lived in Appalachia for a while too, and there's a huge bluegrass community and string sounds that are really interesting actually when you inject them into indie rock. There's definitely and even in India, the Hindi music is just incredible. I love it. It's really rhythmic and kind of this trance kind of vibe, which I really feel and relate to as a writer.
Oh, yeah. I think those sounds show up already in your music. I would be excited to hear a movie scored by Becca Mancari. That would be, let's manifest.
We're going to manifest that. I would love that.
Yeah. I want to talk about an interview that you did with Them magazine, where you said when you were learning guitar and finding your voice as a kid, you didn't want to cover female artists because it kind of felt like this part of this burden of being pretty that your family and society were putting on you. And I'm curious what that's like for you now. Do you still struggle with being heard as feminine, and do you work through that discomfort? Has your relationship to prettiness changed in any way?
Wow. It's definitely something that has come up a lot, even recently in conversation, where even on The Greatest Part, my latest record, I still feel like even the way I dressed at times, there was still momentarily thought of the male gaze and what does that look like? And even though I'm pretty radically queer, and I've really spent a lot of my life, all of my life being so, I went through a time where I definitely felt the pressure, as we all do, I think, as women or non-binary people, or people of color, like we do feel a lot of pressure to be, again, like homogenous in America. Be a certain way, a certain color, a certain look, like, and so, yeah, I mean, that is definitely something that I just want no part of anymore. And I am like radically doing that work myself. Even it's like a deep work inside to rid yourself of those like social expectations. And I mean, even like white supremacy inside of us, like it's a real thing, and we have to like work it out of us. Like it's an actual like act of changing. So
yeah, I'm curious, like, do you find yourself becoming, because you've worked with tons of, you know, other female artists, non-binary artists, do you feel like it's gotten easier as you've gotten older to like go between the, you know, the male and female influences and not feel so like, you know, fenced in by those expectations?
Yeah, one thing I was telling a friend the other day, it was really interesting. I said, you know, this is the first time for this record I'm working on right now that I have written with other people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I never, like, only thing I did with Zach was like he would write some of the music and then I would write all the lyrics and melodies. And we did 2 songs like that, and it was really fun. And it was the first time I ever even did that. But this is the first time I've ever actually like written with other writers. Yeah, and but it was a huge challenge. To answer your question, like I really struggled with the fact that people would ask me throughout my career, like, "Oh, hey, did you write those songs?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, you would never ask a man, like, did he write those songs? He would just be like, "Those are great songs," and that happens all the time. Like even with people I've worked with before, you know. And so, yeah, there was a really big shift of like saying, no, I'm allowed. I should be able to do what everybody else does too, which is like write with other people or like collaborate in that way. But yet I did feel the pressure to literally do everything to be validated as an artist. Right. And I think women do feel that way. I think queer people feel that way. I think we are all like really working to be seen and like be celebrated fully. And I think that's a struggle.
No, I can totally relate to what you're saying. And I think, I mean, I go through things like that, like as a person of color in like folk and Americana, you end up kind of almost overcorrecting and being so protective of your craft in a way that others don't have to be. And you have to like prove yourself in a different way. I can totally relate to that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, that's like the biggest thing, right? Like if you... And I left the genre behind even, like, you know, with this new record. Like, I definitely said I can't just be playing for people that are not like me anymore. Like, I just can't do it. I don't want to do it anymore. And it was a choice. Like, it was a radical shift for me. And it was because I wanted to, you know, live my life differently in every aspect.
Wow.
Yeah.
That kind of leads me to my next question, which is, I mean, it's a little bit heavy, and it kind of comes back to that that same interview with them. I was wondering if you could briefly set the scene for your religious upbringing growing up, for those who may not be familiar, because I have a few questions about that as it relates to how you're living in the world now as an artist.
Yeah, so my parents were both raised very Catholic. You know, my mom's Puerto Rican and my dad's Italian. So it's like very like Catholic and background. But they both became like what you would call like born again evangelicals. So fundamentalists, like not even like affiliated with an actual denomination necessarily, which is pretty intense because it's like it veers onto... I don't know how to describe it other than like they're Bible believers. So it's very much like fundamentalist. Like if it's in the Bible, we have to believe it with 100% certainty. There's no room for any kind of interpretation even other than like, I guess their own at a certain point, you know? So I was raised kind of like, interestingly though, because I was born in Staten Island and was like, you know, in the city. And then we moved when I was a kid to rural Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Which was like a huge culture shock, I think, for all of us. Even like, you know, my mom, like coming into a grocery store and people staring at her being like, you don't look like you're from around here. Or even like our friends from New York that helped us like move into our house were like, hey, like we probably should not be around like this this is not a safe place for us, you know?
Have mercy.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, listen, I can go 20 minutes outside of Nashville right now in 2021 and not feel safe. And I know that you know what I'm talking about, where you go to places and you say, I'm not safe here. Yeah. For multiple reasons.
So that's like the lock the doors leg of the tour.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the walk with a friend, the leg of the tour when I'm in like the Southeast. Yeah. I understand that.
You said that you were raised with the belief to don't trust yourself. You're innately bad. I just want to say how thankful I am that you were able to put that into words, because I've definitely struggled with that nagging feeling that like, I can't make decisions for myself. Like, I don't know whether it's okay to be a musician. What clothes should I wear? Like, and even like, am I sick? Can I trust my own instincts? So obviously, like, for both journalistic and personal reasons, I want to know how you've gone about learning how to trust yourself. Like, have you turned to certain affirmations? Is it a fake it till you make it thing? Like, how have you practiced coming into your own instincts?
Well, thank you for asking that. And also, I'm, as somebody that can relate, I'm so sorry that is how you've had, you know, we've had to do that deconstruction. And I feel like very much I want to talk about it because I think there's a lot of us out there.
Yes.
And a friend of mine sent me a TikTok of like somebody talking about being grown up like how we did, and just saying like, you know, watching kids play so freely and not being afraid. And like her husband was saying like, isn't that like so beautiful? And she's like, no, I don't remember that. Because as a kid, I was always afraid of like, am I going to hell? Am I bad?
Yeah.
Can I please go to heaven? Can I please be okay? And it really does like wreck your identity. And like when I left the church, so to answer your question, when I left religion, it was really, it's been a difficult process of like reclaiming my own belief though, like, cause I still have belief, and I still have faith actually. And that's like something that is like really personal to me and I don't talk about very much at all. And I don't even know, people would even not get that in my music. And I think recently it's starting to come out of me, but, that's a really recent thing. That was not even on a Good Woman record. Like I didn't talk about
That's hard. It's hard to come around to like, I don't want what I grew up with, but there is still something about faith and connection that matters to me, you know? That's really hard to come to.
It is. And, you know, like, again, I was telling a friend, I was like, we should be billing the church for all of our therapy bills that we have to like rack up. So I've been doing that. And my sister's a yoga instructor. She's an amazing person. She's kind of like a little bit. Yeah. She's really talked to me a lot about, I'm not a Buddhist either, because I'm never going to join like a religion, but like, I definitely relate to, I've been reading, you know, some books that have really helped me center, and I'm just practicing presence. And that's really helped me like trust myself and hear my own voice, which like I was taught was the Holy Spirit, but I think it's just it's your gut. It's your own voice.
Yeah. We actually each have our own instincts and intuition. And I don't know if you feel the same way. To me, it feels radical to say like, I am okay. I know myself. I can make good choices, you know, like, and to feel like that comes from within rather than an external set of rules is so wild.
And you do see like when people come into that, like they heal the world. Like that's my hope always.
Right.
My hope is that from all this brokenness, and like, you know, my music is like upbeat, but it's pretty sad. Like it's pretty heavy. Yeah. Like actually my team is like, can you write a happy song so we can like maybe get on like some like, you know, listings or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'll do my best.
Maybe that's what co-writes are for. You could like hire out the happy lyrics.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's definitely a process, and it's a long, and maybe like a forever one, honestly. But that's being a person, right? Like I think that's why we're here, is to figure that out.
Yeah, and thank God we all get to hear some of that process through your music. I want to talk about your first album. I heard that years ago, and that came out in 2017, right? That knocked me over. Kitchen Dancing. is such an amazing song. And I am really fascinated by basically how the sausage gets made when it comes to albums that are both musically excellent, but also like made without label support. Because I don't know if all of our listeners really know what goes on behind the scenes and how expensive it is, how emotionally draining it is, how time consuming it is to independently produce a full-length album. So could you paint us a picture of like, what was your life like then? Were you working a day job? Did you and your band like camp out in the studio, or were you like coming from work? Do you feel like being independent really like influenced how that album came together?
I love that question, and it's kind of crazy to think back on that time. It's so different than like the life. I'm like really thankful, and I'm thankful for both. I think for me, I'm really glad that I have learned how to work. Like, I know the business, I understand the business because I didn't have a team. Like you said, like that's what happened. Like when I wrote that record, I was working a really just not a terrible job, but it was kind of a terrible job. Just like flipping eggs, like working the line, working the kitchen. And I'd been doing that for years. Like I was a line cook for years. And so I was I was waking up at like 5 a.m., going to work, leaving, like covered in bacon and, all this stuff, and going into the studio with my friend Kyle Ryan and like sitting there for like 6 hours, just working and like falling asleep while working, like being so tired. And I think what I love about that record is I definitely would maybe have done things now differently, but at the time it was so fun because it was like very much my live band too, who played on it. And I didn't know, I didn't have the money to hire like studio musicians. I didn't have that whole thing. And I wanted it to be really collaborative, and, and I did pay out of pocket, and that job is how I did it. Like, and I just had to scrape together money every time I could and be really honest. And I had to go and buy like food myself and make it for them so that I could, I couldn't afford catering. I couldn't afford like somebody to come in. Like I couldn't even afford delivery. Like I was like so poor, And so I just like really like, and I think, too, it's like if you have the dream and if you can like spread a vision to somebody, if you can like inspire them by what you do, they will come and help you. I really believe that. Like people want to, be a part of something. And if you can like give them that vision, I think I'm really good at selling a vision basically. And I think that's
great.
What I would say to young artists. I'm like, just sell the vision. People will come and find you. Trust your gut. Don't say yes to the first person who wants to work with you. That is a big one.
That's a tough lesson because a lot of people do want to like, once they see your train pulling out of the station, there are going to be some shady people trying to get on board.
I didn't know we could say shitty, but yeah, there's a lot of shitty people out there ready to like take your shine. And like, one thing I've always realized is that people are unintentionally like vampires, like sucking your energy out of you. Yeah. And you have to be wary of that and watch for it. And I've definitely had that. And I've learned a lot about, sometimes you have to let people go, even though it's scary and you have to take that chance. But like, I have done that, and I have like built myself back up multiple times where the songs have been I just write a good song, like pour everything into your art. That's the thing that will always help you succeed. That's the main thing you should focus on.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because this is a lie that like self-doubt tells us, and it's also a lie that capitalism tells us, that like you are a struggling songwriter, you don't have anything to offer, like people are doing you a favor by working with you. And I think it's such an interesting shift when you get to that mindset of like, oh, I actually have something of worth here that deserves to be protected. Yeah, do you remember when you kind of like, when that clicked for you, or have you always known like, this is the path, I have something that nobody else has?
I have definitely dealt with like self-doubt for sure. But I do think when I was first starting, I had I don't know if it was even an unhealthy sense of self, but I knew that I had something to say. I knew it. And I knew, I think I was just at a point where I realized I was like, either I'm going to do this, because I had spent a lot of years being in Nashville just like learning and not really like saying a lot. And I didn't even tell people I played music. I came here and I was overwhelmed by how I remember the first time I started hearing people sing, I was like, oh, I'm not even a singer. Like, I don't even know why. Like, I cannot sing. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is insane how good people are. And then I realized, like, no, it's actually like, do what you do. Be true to it. And people will find you. And, like, that is powerful when you just be yourself. Like, that's over and over again. It comes back to that. People just want authenticity and they want to see what you have to say, even if it's not like, I've never been able to belt. I've never been a big singer. I've always had this little like small voice. And, you know, one of my best friends, probably one of the best singers on the planet Earth right now.
Right.
And she always told me, she said, Becca, I can't do what you do though. Like there's an emotion that you have in your voice that is yours and it's special. And that's why people listen to you and we need it.
It's true. There's clarity in your delivery that is definitely unique.
Thank you.
We should talk about the new music. And please stop me if you are sick of talking about like how musicians survived the pandemic. But it really does feel significant that this particular album was released in 2020. It's a really personal album from you. It is about surviving painful experiences. In some ways, it's about coming out. And it does really seem like the type of album that is meant to be like shared as community. So in the absence of a tour, how did you celebrate the release of that album? And how do you think you're going to look back on it 20 years from now? Like, what is that moment going to be in your memory?
I think it's one of those things where we tried so hard in the moment to stay really positive and stay really present to the fact that we can't change what's happening. And you know, and I dealt with a lot of like feelings of like, I don't know if this is like even my Christian background or like, you know, this like higher purpose kind of thing where even the month that it came out, which is like now, this is the month, it came out in June of last year. And so like with the Black Lives Matter movement, like I was really hesitant to even like speak. Like I was like, I just don't want to take away from what's happening right now at all. And something we had to like really like work through, I had to really work through is like the music still is important for people. Like it was always about the people. It was always about sharing this like story of struggle and like, and I think, you know, no matter what, like I just had to say, okay, I just offer this now to the people. Like this is my offering of like, I hope this makes you feel seen. I hope this might, you know, and I like do write music for queer people. No, I mean, straight people could listen to it. That's super like dope if they do. But like, I do feel more and more like I make music for marginalized people. And like, I just do. I just can't do it anymore for the machine. Like, I just can't care at all. Like, so in that way, I'll look back and say I was proud to say that I do think that it meant a lot to people who were at home struggling. And like they felt really like heard and seen. And I had lots of people reach out to me. And I usually try to always respond to my fans and like really like, you know, okay, like listen to them or say like, you know, you can get into my DMs basically and I will respond to you. You know what I mean? Like I will. I'm really thankful for, I don't feel like this like capitalistic like divide. Like my shows are really inclusive. I want you to feel like you're part of it. I'm not like, I never could be like the aloof rock star. I've just never been like that. I've always been about how does this community help each other be stronger. I'm all about like power to the fucking people. Like I'm done with like the world against us. I'm just done. I can't do it anymore. And like, so I'll look back saying like, it was really hard on me, like emotionally to not have that be realized in front of people. But I just know that this record is special and I know that it will have its time. And I already know that like, maybe it won't have the numbers that we wanted. Obviously, like that's how this world works. And like, you know, I'm really thankful for a team that still wants to work with me and like believes in me and we're moving forward. So 20 years from now, I will be like, that was so hard and I didn't stop. And I actually like grew.
Well, that's also, I mean, I really wanted to talk about your live shows because I think this is like sort of becoming a well-known thing that you have a really deep connection with your audience and people really see you as someone that makes them feel less alone, someone that speaks to and for a particular community. And I wonder if you've always felt that intimacy with your fans or if it's something that has grown in strength as you've been more and more outspoken as like a queer artist. And yeah, basically like how has that relationship grown over time?
It's definitely grown. I mean, we literally had like a cookout yesterday and a bunch of my friends were over and they've known me forever. And like, we were talking about that and they were saying like, Becca, like, we're so proud of you. Like, you really fought to be here. You really fought.
Yes.
And everything about this change, it was a radical change. Like, you know, like a new friend, like said, you know, I love the first record, but like, I see you on the second record. I see you stepping out and saying like, I am queer. I am not white. I am not like, I'm mixed. So that's another thing. It's like, I struggle with like my identity in that way too, you know? So like, and like, we were just talking about how like, you know, that I think does take time. And like, I had to really like, leave behind this idea of like, I really wanted to fit in when I moved to Nashville. Like, I really wanted to be like accepted. And I was just never like a lot of the women that I saw being celebrated. And I, you know, my whole thing is like, I believe that the artist to artist lift each other up. And that's the mentality I will always keep. And I will always support other women. But I do think like the time is now like to like truly claim who you are. And my audience, I think, feels safe to be who they are at my shows. And you know what's crazy is that I think like there's still like fringe people from the Americana world that come and they say wild stuff. I mean, I was telling friends last night, you know, we're all like a bunch of like, you know, it was just like the most beautiful table of people from different backgrounds, you know?
Yeah.
All of us like know, like we probably should be living in New York. We should be like, but we're trying to do something in the South. Like we're trying, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like that, yeah, there's so much love and connection and power to be found truly anywhere that you are and anywhere that you are with other people. And I don't really believe in this thing like the North is better or more progressive in any way. Like it is to some extent, but this is America, as they say. Like the whole country is like the Lock Your Doors tour. Like people are wild all over the place.
Yeah, country is country. I don't care where it is. Like, you know, like rural girl and like city is city. Like, you know, like this country has a real reckoning, as we obviously know. We can talk about that another time too. But that's definitely something that's like very much on all of our minds all the time. And like making choices, how we make our art too is really important to me. Like it's, you know, it's something that I've been striving to do. And so, yeah, like I can't wait to see my audience again because it's a radical shift. Like there are my people now coming to my shows.
Yes.
And that is
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Okay, so you play a million instruments. You play drum machines in your like super group. And then you produced The Greatest Part with Zach Farrow, who is best known as the drummer for Paramore. And you've said that you all played even more instruments on the album that you had no experience playing. So what was the most fun instrument to play? Is there anything that you're going to stick with after that album?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like this is a little bit weird that I'm going back to this instrument, but I played like some slide on this record and I have this dream and I'm going to manifest this. I have this dream of being a lead singer playing lap steel, but not like normal lap steel. Like I used to have this incredible guy that I played with who would like basically run the lap steel like a synth machine. Like he was like using all these pedals and like distorting the sound. I've just never seen somebody do that in a live setting as a lead singer. And that is like my dream. I want to build this like kind of machine that incorporates lap steel and like synth and like, I don't know how it's going to work, but it's like a life goal of mine.
Is it true that you've only in the past few years started playing more electric and with like more pedals? Do you feel like that's something that's becoming more and more important? And do you have like favorite guitars that you like to play, favorite pedals? Like drop some gear knowledge on our basic folk listeners.
Okay, so I definitely started playing electric for this new record, and I played, which was like, what was one of the coolest things is like, Zach and I both are not guitar players necessarily, like shredders. Like I am a guitar player,
right.
But I didn't write lead lines on Good Woman. I wrote lead lines under his part. Like I was like, let me just play.
Now.
I was like, let me just like play this part, and we both were doing that back and forth because it was like this whole thing until we really can't do anything. The whole concept was like, Zach was like, let's just do as much as we can, just the two of us, until we really have to bring in like somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, and that's the kind of music that I respond to the most is like usually most of the players that I play with are not like, and there's nothing wrong with going to school. There's nothing wrong with Berkeley or like, in another life, maybe I would have done that, but I just didn't. And so most of the people I surround myself are self-taught. And there is something to a self-taught artist where my guitar player, he always says, Becca, he's like, yes, learn more and yes, grow, but never lose that very like naive way of making music, because you come up with things that I would never think to put together because they don't make sense together. They don't make sense for that to actually be happening. Like, it's not proper. It's not like the right way. And like that to me is the exciting thing about music.
I still have so many questions about your album that I'm like going to force myself to get back on task. So I want to talk about the music video for The First Time, which is amazing. It's powerful. There are scenes of like you as a child and kind of coming to meet yourself as an adult. The part that really stuck with me was when you were in that pink room and you were lying on the floor and you were surrounded by candles. It was sort of like a witchy moment. Can you talk about the motivation, like the intentions behind it? And also like, what did it feel like in the moment? Because I just feel so strongly that like how our bodies feel is like beyond logic. So like lying on your back in a room full of candles, even though it's part of your work, it has to feel primal in some way. So like, what did that moment feel like when you were filming?
Well, it was very emotional. Like, so the scene is like to depict like the two people in the room are my parents, like figurative parents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like praying over me, and there's like a pastor that's like holding his hand over me. And I like that you got that. It felt like seance-y. Like a true story, for me was when I came out. I went through a really bad breakup with my first big love, and it was so bad that I felt like, oh, maybe they were right. Like maybe everything that they said was true about being gay. Like maybe it will destroy me. Like maybe like this is like gonna like just ruin my life. And so I actually went back in the closet for 2.5 years after I came out. Yeah. And that's actually when I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thank you. I mean,
that's really hard.
I haven't really talked about that a lot, actually. That's like something I don't usually talk about, but recently I've been feeling like it's important to tell the whole story for people who also go through coming out in really intense ways. And so I actually went through an experience when I was in India, actually. Well, I went through this experience where, like, being gay was, like, basically, like, being, like, demonic, like, being, like, possessed. And I was literally, like, forced to, like, go through deliverance or something. Like, like, it was very intense. It was very intense. Yeah, it was awful. It was.
Laying on of hands type of thing.
Yeah. It was, like, laying on hands. Like, I threw up. Like, it was very, like, emotional. Like, can I tell you this, though? It's going to make me emotional now. But, like, I remember. I'll never forget, like, when I was going through that, I remember, like, my voice, which I think is God. My voice came to me, and with all that chaos around me, which is, like, like the severe, like, praying over you kind of thing, I remember being like, that voice said, it's not true. I'm with you, and I love you. And you don't have to, like, this is not real. Like, listen to me. I love you. Like, I'm here. And I'll never get over that. And that's why I still believe in God. Like, I know that God is with me. And all of that was, like, really painful. And like, so the experience of being in that room, even with like even I chose the man who acted as the preacher as somebody that he's like, a white man. And that was on purpose. Like those kind of people, like, are the people that were like, I do think aggressively, like tearing me apart,
Mm-hmm.
And like, for me though, like my movement towards healing is even to forgive them. And that's like why the music video I do, like, you see me hugging them. You see me embracing the people that I feel like really did kind of ruin me for a long time.
Right.
Which I don't know if that's like something that everybody needs to do, by the way. Like sometimes there are people that you just need to leave in the past and you need to move
Leave
forward.
it behind.
Leave it behind.
Yeah.
And there are certain people that, like my family, that I want in my life, even though they still don't accept me,
Mm-hmm.
And that is painful. It's painful. It will never not be painful. But
Yeah.
it is like, I love the ending of that music video because it's like, that's my family. Like those queer people, those are my actual friends. Those are actual gay queer people who are like my people, and who have like been my chosen family. And like, that was healing. It was even healing in that moment.
Because you get to choose. You literally get to cast the characters of your adult life. You can choose who you want to include in that circle.
And it's like, to me, the greatest joy of my life is being queer. So it's a blessing.
Oh, the best. And you talk a lot on the album about forgiveness. It seems like it's something that is important to you, but it's also tricky. What gifts do you feel like forgiveness has given you?
I will say, when I wrote the record, I realized that I was not ready to forgive. And that's what's interesting. The last song is called Forgiveness,
Yeah.
But it still is like echoing, like, forgiveness is the hardest part when it's buried in your blood. Like, I could not shake this feeling of like, I'm not ready yet. Like, the whole record it's kind of angry. Like, as I listen back, it's not like pointing fingers, but it's definitely like, it's not like glossing over it anymore, which I think is really important. I finally realized, like, for a long time, I'd be like, oh, it's okay. Or like, don't feel bad. Like, it's okay. Like, a lot of people are like, no, it's horrible. Like, I can't believe you have to go through that. I don't understand. Like, how can parents not, like, accept their children for who they are? How can, like, they, like, abandon them? How can how can people do that? And I think for years, I just kind of said, it's okay. It's okay. And finally I said, it's not okay. Like, it's not okay.
Yeah.
Anger can be a gift too.
Oh, it is. It's a huge part. Like, in my therapy, like, my therapist never, like, you should, anger, there is a real anger that is right, and so I think for me, I now am doing the actual, like, learning how to forgive after the record came out. Like, I really felt, oh yeah, like, I was like, oh yeah, I did not know about forgiveness at all. Like, now I'm like in it, and I think, not to get like too, my mom is she's diagnosed with cancer this year, and like,
Oh God,
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, thank you. I mean, it's actually been like the craziest, like, I'm so sorry. This is like such a bummer interview, I feel.
Oh, no, not at all. I love to talk about feelings, and sometimes I'm like, is this wild to ask a person that I've never met in person? But like, this is what this music is for, in my opinion. So I love to talk about like the matters of the heart.
The real stuff, and like, for me, when I found that out, it was one of those things where I was like, yeah, it hurts me to like put away a part of me when I go home, and deny like who I really am. And they, but I love my mom, and like, she loves me. And like, at the end of the day, she is somebody that I feel like was so, again, talking about, like, going back to the previous talk about white supremacy in America and like white, like, colonialism, like colonizing people. Like, my mom was colonized, like Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Like, Puerto Ricans are like, nobody cares about Puerto Ricans. Like, they're just like, they have not, like, they're just like this country that's destroyed by colonialism. And I see that in my mom's life, and her brothers, and like my uncles and like my cousins, and like, I'm just like, so for me, I'm like, my mom's mom died of breast cancer, for sure. She died at 56. Nobody cared about her. She never spoke English. She didn't get the proper care. She probably maybe could have been here if she did. And like my mom has it now, you know, and like she knows that. And like it's been really emotional. I was talking about it where she's like, my mom just didn't, I wish my mom could have had help. Like I finally was able to get help. And like I feel like this is a story for a lot of women of color. Like they're not getting cared for. They're not getting the health care. It's just it makes me so upset.
I think it's becoming trendy to talk about, you know, women of color not getting treated well in medical settings, institutional settings. But I think we can forget what that feels like on an individual level of like, my mom had so X fewer years of her life because of this. It has such personal consequences.
It does. And it's like, and it's trickled down. Like my mom, if my mom's mom could have found out, she could have been able to help my mom realize she's probably going to get it, you know, and now like my sisters and I can like all go get treated, like go now because we know that it's in our family that we can go. But like her mom didn't get to do that for her. You know, it's just like generational. And you're right. It's not trendy. It's like, it's happening to our families. Like it is like happening right now. And it's like, it's still happening. So to me, I talk about it because it's really is something that I'm realizing, like, you know, at least for my mom, I think it's a little bit harder for me with my dad at times, even though I see him really trying. He still has like this perspective that it's very like, you know, he's a 65-year-old white man. Like, you know, like he's an Italian man, like old school. Like that's like, it's just the truth of it, you know? And yet, like, I still feel like I really want, and let's get back to the music. Like, I just want my music to, like, reach whoever. Like, I need it to reach people because I do believe, like, if it doesn't change my life, like, let's say, like, my parents will never accept me. Maybe first time, the song, the meaning, like, all of it, maybe it will help somebody else's family accept
somebody
them.
else. Yeah.
Maybe one other parent will hear it and be like, why would I not hug my child? Like, oh, snap them into it. Like, snap out of it. Like, don't you see what you're losing out on?
This is what this disconnect can do. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to your new EP, because there's so many moments on The Greatest Part where it really does feel like you're confronting or reenacting your childhood in a way that's kind of painful. And then Annie, the new song on the Juniata EP, is so dreamy and so like peaceful and sort of nostalgic. And I'm sure you could come up with better descriptors, but was there something else about your childhood that you were trying to capture on Annie? Was there something about memory you were trying to shift the focus on?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, like my grandpa is still alive. He's 91 years old. And
oh my God.
Yeah, so he's like an OG. Like he's the best. And he's like extremely Italian. Like he's like his family's from Italy, you know. And he's just like so I don't know, like I think if you're raised like on the East Coast, like especially like the music I grew up listening to and like the movies that I watched, like because I was raised so religious too, like I grew up on like 1950s movies that my grandma would record for us and send to us. So I know like more about actors from like that time period and music from that time period than I do from like, you know, the 90s at times. Like and it's crazy to say, but like I definitely did from like school and like listening, and I'd sneak a radio in, like listen to like R&B. I think I wanted to like pay some homage to like my grandparents, and I was really close to my grandma who passed away, and so I just wanted to like make this music that my grandpa would like be proud of. I think like that he would feel like was like really classic, and like, you know, the artistry is so like incredible to me that the Jordan Leahy, who composed the strings, just did a magical job. And so, yeah, like this definitely was reflective of my childhood and being grown up on the Northeast and Italian, you know, extremely emotional and like very like gaudy. And like, I just think it's really cool. Yeah.
I have one more question. So you and Julien Baker have a very adorable friendship. And it also seems like you guys have some important things in common in terms of upbringing and, you know, your journey to like the sort of self-possessed people that you are today. So what does that friendship meant for you?
It's really funny because the first time that we met was on tour. We had just she had reached out to me on Twitter, DM'd me on Twitter, and was like,
slid into the DMs,
and she was like, hey, they'd offered us this tour to open up for her in Europe, and she was just like, hey, I'm really excited to have you. I would love to have coffee and get to know each other. And I was like, oh yeah, we're so excited to be doing this. And we didn't end up getting that coffee because life is so busy at the time.
Right.
And she'll tell you this story too, so I'm not blowing her spot, but I will tell you that
I always say this is not gotcha journalism.
No, exactly. This is not she and I were in Germany, and I think it was maybe a couple shows in of the tour. Mm-hmm. And I probably had, at the time, too much wine. Let's be true. But I went up to her, and she was we were talking, and I just said something I don't know if I dig your music. Oh, yeah.
You did not.
Oh, yeah. And she said from that time on, we became, because I talked to her about what I meant. I said, I read an interview that you did, and it upset me. Because not everybody gets to have the story that you had, Julien. And queer people need to not feel like they are crazy to say the church has literally destroyed them. The church has destroyed queer people. That happens. I'm talking queer people. 31 years ago, we were just said to not have by the World Health Association to having a mental illness. These are people that are still alive, that are around watching us young gay people reap the benefits of all of their literal, putting their bodies on the line.
Yep.
And I just was upset. And I just said, I don't know if I dig that, man. And she looked at me and she said, let's I like you. You're not blowing smoke on my ass. You're not on this tour pretending. You're not telling me something that you don't believe. And we became brothers. We became so close because I told the truth. And and she's grown so many different ways that that's, her story to tell. But I couldn't be proud of her. I'm more proud of her. I love her. We're truly family now. It's just she's very special, and she always was, by the way. Her music is incredible, and it did bring me to tears multiple times on the tour. But it was from a different. She's grown a lot. When you listen to the new record, that record, I'm oh yeah, I see you, Julien. Let's go.
Oh, that's so exciting. Are you down for a lightning round before I let you go?
Let's do it.
Okay, so here's the rules. You may skip any question, but don't ask me to clarify any questions, and this will be timed.
Okay.
Okay, what's your karaoke song?
Pass.
What is your favorite music venue to play?
Basement East.
Nike or Adidas?
Adidas.
What's your favorite pasta shape?
Long, skinny.
Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia?
Ooh, neither?
Okay. CD, LP, or cassette?
LP.
What is the one snack you need to have in stock on the tour van?
Just mango strips.
Ooh, very good. Okay, speaking of snacks, who is your celebrity crush?
Ricky Martin.
Which musician, living or dead, do you believe could unite the country if they were elected president?
Brittany Howard.
Brittany Howard. Do you know how to change a tire?
Kind of.
Becca Mancari, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for talking with me. Thanks to the whole Basic Folk audience, I have been Lizzie No.
Today's episode of Basic Folk was produced by John Nungesser. Our music is composed by Alex Stanton of the band Townspeople. Thanks again to Lizzie for interviewing Becca Mancari. Basic Folk is on the American Songwriter Podcast Network. You can find all the episodes of Basic Folk, including Lizzie's 2 other episodes that we've released so far, featuring interviews with Amethyst Kia and Kishi Bashi. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts or at basicfolk.com. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks. Bye.